You're a strong opponent of same-sex marriage. What do you think of the law that was just passed in New York State, making it the biggest state to recognize same-sex marriage?
Well, I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. And I also believe in Minnesota, for instance, this year, the legislature put on the ballot for people to vote in 2012 whether the people want to vote on the definition of marriage as one man, one woman. In New York State, they have passed the law at the state legislative level. And under the 10th Amendment, the states have the right to set the laws that they want to set.
So even though you oppose it, then it's okay, from your point of view, for New York to say that same-sex marriage is legal?
That is up to the people of New York. I think that it's best to allow the people to decide on this issue. I think it's best if there's an amendment that goes on the ballot where the people can weigh in. Every time this issue has gone on the ballot, the people have voted to retain the traditional definition of marriage as recently as California in 2008.
But you would agree, if it's passed by the state legislature and signed by the governor, then that's a state's decision.
It's state law. And the 10th Amendment reserves to the states that right.
All right. I want to follow up on that because I'm confused by your position on this. Here's what you said in the New Hampshire debate. Let's put it up.
I do support a constitutional amendment on marriage between a man and a woman, but I would not be going into the states to overturn their state law.
That's why I'm confused. If you support state rights, why do you also support a constitutional amendment which would prevent any state from recognizing same-sex marriage?
Well, because that's entirely consistent. The states have, under the 10th Amendment, the right to pass any law they like. Also, federal officials at the federal level have the right to also put forth a constitutional amendment. One thing that we do know on marriage, this issue will ultimately end up in the courts, in the Supreme Court. I do not believe that judges should be legislating from the bench. As President of the United States, I would not appoint judges who are activists who want to legislate from the bench. Under the federal government, again, federal representatives can put forward a federal constitutional amendment because ultimately, with states having various laws, the federal government will most likely
my point is this. Do you want, say it's a state issue and the state should be able to decide, or would you like to see a constitutional amendment so that it's banned everywhere?
It is both. It is a state issue and it's a federal issue. It's important for your viewers to know that federal law will trump state law on this issue. And it's also, this is why it's important.
And you would like federal law to trump state law.
This is why it's so important, because President Obama has come out and said he will not uphold the law of the land, which is the Defense of Marriage Act. The Congress passed the Defense of Marriage Act, and Bill Clinton signed it into law to make sure that if a state like New York passed a definition of marriage other than one man, one woman, that other states wouldn't be forced to recognize New York's law.
But just real quickly.
And President Obama has said,
Congresswoman, if I might just ask,
let me just finish this. In opposition to what he is supposed to do, he is charged with executing our laws, whether he likes them or not. That's why this is so crucial. That's why I think you may see, again, a rise at the federal government level for a call for the federal constitutional amendment, because people want to make sure that this definition of marriage remains secure, because after all, the family is the fundamental unit of government.
So just briefly, you would support a constitutional amendment that would overturn the New York state law?
Yes, I would. I would. That is not inconsistent, because the states have the right under the 10th Amendment to do what they'd like to do, but the federal government also has the right to pass a federal constitutional amendment. It's a high hurdle. As you know, we only have 27 amendments to the federal Constitution. It's very difficult, but certainly it will either go to the courts or the people's representatives at the federal level.
I want to just run through a few of your opponents, and we're running out of time, so excuse me for pushing you along, if I may. You hit Mitt Romney this week for not agreeing to sign a pledge on abortion. You said this is not the time for the Republican Party to put up a candidate who is weak on the pro-life issue or has a history of flip-flopping over it. Question, Mitt Romney is weak on pro-life?
Well, not President Romney. Governor Romney has had a history of varying his position on this issue. I think clearly we need a candidate who is pro-life. That's reflective of our party. It's reflective of my position throughout my life.
And Mitt Romney is not?
Mitt Romney has to say what he is, but I will say that if he is saying now that he is pro-life, this was a tremendous opportunity for him to demonstrate that by signing the Susan B. Anthony pledge, and I think it's disappointing that he didn't.
Former Governor Tim Pawlenty of your state, of Minnesota, says that he balanced the budget without raising taxes. Critics say he left a $5 billion deficit for the state. Who's right?
Well, under Minnesota state law, like many states, we are required to balance our budget. There is a deficit that is in Minnesota that the current legislature is grappling with, and clearly that has to do with obligations regarding spending. And that's why at the federal level, as President of the United States, my very first and singular focus will be on turning the country around. We're on the wrong track. I want to turn the economy around. I'm a job creator. I'm a former federal tax lawyer. I get it, what the problems are, and I get what the solutions are, and I have a titanium spine to be able to do what needs to be done to turn the economy around.
If Texas Governor Rick Perry gets into this race, doesn't he overshadow you on Tea Party and social issues?
Well, I think there's room in the race for all sorts of candidates to get in, and I think this is good for the people of the country to have as many candidates who want to get in as would like to. Finally,
let's talk about Michele Bachmann, because and you say, it's interesting, you say that people saw in the debate and saw you as a serious person. I don't have to tell you that you have the rap on you here in Washington is that you have a history of questionable statements, some would say gaffes, ranging from talking about anti-America members of Congress to on this show a couple of months ago when you suggested that NATO airstrikes had killed up to 30,000 civilians. Are you a flake?
Well, I think that would be insulting to say something like that because I'm a serious person.
But you understand when I say that's what the rap on you is.
Well, what I would say is that I am 55 years old. I've been married 33 years. I'm not only a lawyer, I have a postdoctorate degree in federal tax law from William & Mary. I've worked in serious scholarship and in work in the United States Federal Tax Court. My husband and I have raised 5 kids. We've raised 23 foster children. We've applied ourselves to education reform. We started a charter school for at-risk kids. I've also been a state senator and a member of the United States Congress for 5 years. I've been very active in our business as a job creator. I understand job creation, but also I've been leading actively the movement in Washington, D.C. with those who are affiliated with fiscal reform.
Do you, and I think it's important to say that, but do you recognize that now that you're in the spotlight in a way that you weren't before, that you have to be careful and not say what some regard as flaky things?
Well, of course, a person has to be careful with statements that they make. I think that's true. And I think now there will be an opportunity to be able to speak fully on the issues. I look forward to that.